My friends, welcome. 138 MMA here. I'm going to break down the entire Bellator 291 card from start to finish, every single fight on this card. There's 18 fights listed right now at the time of recording this. We had 20 before, 2 dropped off. We've had some replacements, some shuffling, but here we are with 18. If there are any changes, I will try to get them out to you as quickly as possible. But real quick, before we get any farther, if this is your first time here, hey, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you taking the time to check this out. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I've sure missed you since the last one. Now, I am on Twitter, 138MMA. You can check me out there. I'm also on Tapology if you want to check my picks, my percentages, whatever. 138MMA on there, obviously. That's the name. So anyway, without any more wasted time, let's get into Bellator 291.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 138 MMA proudly brings to you the hottest picks in the world!
Featherweight division, we have Magomedsharipov taking on Rafael Hudson. Now, in this matchup, 2-3 for the Hudson side. He's kind of been in a bit of a rough patch lately. Obviously, 5-0 for Magomedsharipov. Now, he's 7-0 on his career, so that does add up. That makes sense. In this one here, we have the striker versus grappler. Now, it's not like Magomedsharipov can't strike, but the striking advantage should go to Hudson. Hudson does have good Muay Thai, and he'll mix the leg kicks with the hands. He does tend to be a slow starter, though, and traditionally when he loses, it's because he's very much out-grappled, especially with a grappler that starts fast. Well, what is he fighting? A grappler who starts fast. A guy with good wrestling and solid grappling skills. Once he gets to that fight to the mat, typically by getting the body lock and the slam, not always, but typically, he'll start ground and pound and searching for chokes, and then just kind of take whichever one he gets first. So start throwing the ground and pound, and if you give him the choke, he'll snatch up the choke. And then if he's going with the ground and pound and you're defending the choke really well, he'll just keep pounding you out. Maybe he'll fish for the choke to set up some more shots. Whatever. He's basically going to get the finish that way. So I think Magomedsharipov gets this one done pretty early. Hudson's not bad, don't get me wrong, but I just think stylistically it's a horrible matchup for him. So Magomedsharipov the pick. I don't think anybody's going to disagree, but let me know what you have, and I'll see you guys next time. Easily the strangest matchup on this card, so bear with me. Stay tuned for this one. This is a weird one. So we have Stephen Hill. He's 6-0, 5-0 in his last 5, obviously. Taking on Joël Kouadja, I believe is how you say that. So Kouadja is 4-1 in his last 5, but here's the thing. The dude started out 1-8 on his career. Probably should have just quit. Because, I mean, if you go 1-8 in your first 9 fights, usually you'd think, man, I suck at this. I should hang it up. Not what he did. All of a sudden, he goes 6-1 in his next 7 fights. That could mean one of two things. Because it could either mean that he figured out the problem and just started doing way better, or he's beating up a bunch of nobodies that are set up fights, because this guy's very entertaining. So when he comes out to the cage, the dude's doing it up right. He's got a gimmick. Watch some of his entrances. They're pretty interesting. I'll save that for you to watch and get surprised. He's got some interesting entrances. I like it. It's very entertaining. But yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. That worries me a lot. In watching the matchups, it was really hard to tell. It's still low level MMA. I mean, if you didn't notice, Bellator has a lot of low level MMA on the early part of the card. Kouadja is in that area, but his kickboxing is solid, at least from what it looked like fighting these bums. Maybe they're not all bums. Maybe they're good. They looked like bums. Either way. He also looks like he has absolutely zero grappling whatsoever. Like, I don't know if any of you have done any grappling in the past, whether that be wrestling or jiu-jitsu or sambo or even aikido. Even aikido, I'll give you that one. Any grappling whatsoever. And then you got together with one of your buddies and, kind of grappled with them, and they had no skill whatsoever. They've never tried it before. And like the most amateurish of things, they just don't know how to do anything, right? That's how I felt watching Kouadja fight. His grappling just looked like he had none whatsoever. And it was, don't know if you guys heard that. Anyway, something just fell off my roof, I think. Anyway, but either way, watching Kouadja fight, that was the vibe that I got, is that he just had zero grappling skill at all. So I don't know how to feel about this. On the other side, Stephen Hill looks a little more well-rounded. He does have decent wrestling. The good news, in his last fight, he fought that Fosse guy. Fosse, I think it's Fosse is how you say that. Anyway, he took him down a lot. Ton of takedowns in that matchup. The problem is, if you're getting a ton of takedowns, that means your opponent's getting back up. And in fact, he did. He got back up a lot. Hill was able just to keep repeatedly taking him down. So what does that mean? That means two things. One, his top control is not very good, but it means two, that he has the cardio to repeatedly, gosh, I keep messing that up, take down an opponent over the course of 3 rounds, because he did end up winning that one doing it just like that. Striking, decent, not bad. He does have a solid jab. I don't think Hill needs to strike in this matchup. I think he'd be stupid if he does. If Hill starts striking in this matchup, the guy Bellator should just give up on him, because that's stupid. He's fighting a guy that has solid kickboxing and has absolutely zero skill on the ground. I think if he gets 1 takedown per round, that's it. Or he might not even need per round. He might be able to finish Kouadja, because Kouadja has no idea what he's doing on the ground from what I've seen. However, the starting out 1-8 and then going 6-1 and just like knocking everybody out or whatever, that gives me pause. I won't touch this fight. It freaks me out a bit. Maybe I'll do it in the $1 parlay the whole Bellator card, because those are fun to do, and this is an 18 fight card, so that those odds would be stupid no matter who you pick. So maybe I'll do that. But otherwise, I'm not betting on this fight. This is silly. I'm going to take Stephen Hill for the sake of a pick. But my goodness, this one is weird. Let me know if you guys have watched any tape. Definitely go back and check out the entrances for Kouadja. Super weird, super wild. But let me know what you guys think if you saw any of this. This fighter gives me some weird vibes here, so I don't know what's going on. Either way, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video so far. Why don't you do me a favor, toss a like on this video. I appreciate it a lot. Let's break down this fight here. This is interesting for me because here in the welterweight division, we have Daniele Scatizzi with the worst fighter name ever, Scat, taking on Dmytrii Hrytsenko. Here's the problem. I couldn't find hardly anything on him. I found one fight that I think was him, but really hard to tell because the quality was super low. It looked like it was from a cell phone in the crowd from way out. And I just really don't have anything to go off of, which makes me worry because he's either really good because he's 7-0 or beating a bunch of tomato cans that are super low level and I have no idea. So I don't know in this fight, but I'm going to break down Scatizzi for you real quick so you at least have something to go off of there and you can make your own judgment. But for Scatizzi, he's got a judo background. He works well with the cage push. Gets you up against the cage. He can, toss you with the judo there or just kind of work you over with his strikes, making you think about the takedown. He does have decent boxing and he strikes well inside of the pocket, but at range, he's not very good. Like I said, I've got nothing here. I even put it out on Twitter asking for anybody else to, hey, have you guys found any tape on this dude? Has anybody seen it? Nobody had anything. So, I don't know. No idea. I can't find anything quality, just the one that I think was him. I tried to pull up the Tapology picture and compare, do I think that was him? Hard to tell. So I don't know. And I've never had this happen before. So if you guys have found tape on this dude, put me a link in the comments here and I'll check it out. And then maybe I'll make another video real quick or at least give you my opinion in the comments what I think of this guy. If you can find some tape on him, that'd be amazing, but I could not. So guess I failed that one. Anyway, on to the next fight. Here at featherweight, we have Craig McIntosh taking on Kenny Mokhonoana. I think is how you say that. He's 4-0, undefeated obviously. He did have a very long amateur career. He's taking on a guy who does have a losing record. He is 2-3, but he spent most of his time in the grappling realm. He spends a lot of time doing grappling competitions, tournaments, what have you. Craig McIntosh is incredibly slick in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is very dangerous with his submission game. That is pretty much all he has, though. That is it. He can kick a little bit, but otherwise, his striking is not good. Striking defense is not good, but his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is actually really good. Now, that could be a problem for Mokhonoana here because the dude's a good wrestler with some good takedowns and does have pretty good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his own right. He likes to chase after the submissions. That's a problem because if he's going to take down McIntosh, you don't want to play around with McIntosh in his guard or anything like that because this guy's actually really, really good on the ground. In the fights that he does win, he is usually getting his face beat in really bad, and then he'll snatch up an arm or snatch up a triangle or whatever. The dude's super slick. I hope for Kenny's sake that he doesn't play the role of an idiot here and decide to try to grapple with McIntosh at least the full fight because that's going to be a problem for him. Now, he also has below average striking and he just has these really big movements that are kind of telegraphed. But here's the thing. Now, my coach explained it to me like this. So I'm gonna do a little explanation here. He would usually just use 3 for start, and then we'd add to it from there. But he would say you're you got 3 ranges when you're fighting, okay? You got your striking, you got your clinch, and you got your grappling. Okay? So, basically, you start out just going like a 1 to 10 on your rankings. You can get more detailed. You can go 1 to 100 if you want to get really refined. But for this sake, we're going to go 1 to 10. Now, okay, we have Kenny here, and we have Craig here, okay? Kenny, his striking, we're on a 1 to 10. We're going to give him about, we'll give him like a 5. We'll give him a 5. We'll give him a 5. I'm being really generous. I'm giving him a 5. For Craig here, his striking, we're going to give him a 1 because it exists, but that's just it. That's all it has. The clinch, we don't really know. These are unknowns. We don't have a lot of clinch footage to go off of here, at least, you know, in their short careers. So we're going to leave that as an unknown. But when it gets to the grappling, okay, so we're going to say Kenny is probably, and I'm going to probably overinflate these a little bit, so bear with me, because 5 is really high for, tell you what, 4. We're going to go 4. Okay, so we're going to give Craig an 8 on the ground. And we're going to give Kenny a... You know what? Yeah, we're going to give Kenny a 4. We'll give him a 5. We'll give him a 5 grappling. So here's what we got. Okay. The thing that's interesting, and a lot of fighters don't realize this, is they want to go where they're the best, okay? Grappling, we're going to count that as wrestling and grappling in the ground. A lot of fighters want to fight where they're the best. Oh, I'm best at this, so that's what I want to do. Well, in this instance, that's a horrible idea because you see that McIntosh is better than Kenny there. The clinch, we don't know. Let's pretend that they're even for the sake of an argument. So Kenny's best path is to go where his opponent is weaker than him by the most amount. Now, sometimes this is different. Sometimes the thing that you are the most average at ends up being the place that they're the worst at, and it ends up being really good for you. But you want to go where the biggest skill gap is. Now, I know a lot of you probably understand this is probably way too long of an explanation for a fight between a couple of guys that both have less than 10 fights. But what I'm saying is you want to find the biggest difference in your favor. And I don't know that Kenny's going to be able to do that. I don't know that he's quite had the experience level to do this yet. He's only 4-0 in his career. But like I said, he has a long amateur career. So hopefully he doesn't want to grapple with McIntosh. And I'm gonna put it out there that I think I'm gonna trust Kenny not to do that, and I'll pick him for the pick. I won't bet him. I don't trust that at all because I know McIntosh is dangerous as all heck with the submissions. But if he strikes, because he can capitalize on the horrible striking of McIntosh, Kenny wins the fight. Anyway, way too long of a breakdown for this fight. But I don't want you guys to see that Mokhonoana is going to be a massive favorite and start just being, parlay him, because he may bust your parlays by getting choked out or an arm snapped by McIntosh here. So I'm just trying to save you that pain that you may feel. There are some better people for the parlays, and we've already covered most of those. And there's some other good fights coming up. So thank you guys. Women's flyweight matchup between Elina Kallionidou taking on Jena Bishop. Now, Bishop, you'll see that she's 4-0. Oh, didn't catch this. You didn't see that. All right. Anyway, she's 4-0, but she's 37 years old. So what's up with that? Well, she's been competing in jiu-jitsu and grappling tournaments pretty much her entire martial arts career. And just recently she started doing some MMA. So on the other side for Kallionidou, 24 years old, decent record, 9-4, 3-2 in her last 5. She's also kind of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. That's her primary art. And this matchup should take place on the mat because that's where both ladies want to get this fight. Yeah, I think Bishop is way better on the mat. The youth is going to be a factor for Kallionidou. I don't think she stands a chance on the ground against Bishop, just based on Bishop's level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, her skill there. So unless I'm totally wrong about the striking of Kallionidou, which I don't think is very good, I think she's not a good striker. And Bishop's pretty much entirely a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. So for me, I think it's a Jiu-Jitsu match in MMA gloves. And Bishop should be the pick. I don't think I'm going to bet this fight. I don't know. Something about it makes me uneasy. But Bishop's my pick. Let me know who you have. I'll see you in the next one. Featherweight matchups on this card. We have Liam McCracken, only 3-0 on his career, taking on Asaël Adjoudj. Adjoudj is 4-1 in his career, so obviously both guys in their last 5, well, their records shows that. Now, for Adjoudj, very interesting because he does have good kickboxing, and basically he just beat up a bunch of tomato cans and then head kicked Jordan Barton. And Barton's not bad, definitely not a tomato can. Barton's a decent fighter. Not top level, don't get me wrong, he's not world champion, but Barton's not bad. So that win does hold up. The others, not so much. Couldn't find the loss. I don't know. I didn't see the loss on the internet. It's probably out there somewhere. I didn't find it, but either way. So in this here, we have the guy who's got good kickboxing, and that's about all we saw because he doesn't really. There just isn't a lot of footage because he's only had 5 fights, and what I'm saying. Not a lot of footage on the guy. Now for McCracken, the same kind of idea is there's not a lot of footage, even though you can find all 3 of his professional fights. They all end really fast in the first round, actually. So he does have good striking and good grappling. So if you just watch those fights, you'd say, oh, wow, McCracken's solid here. He's going to be great. But the competition's been very low level. So this is a hard one to pick. McCracken has looked very, very talented and very good in his fights. But like I said, he's not really fighting the best fighters. Adjoudj didn't really beat anybody either until he knocked out Barton. So the slight lean here is going to be McCracken. Not mega confident. I'm not sold on Adjoudj as far as, especially knowing what his ground skills are like. So I'd rather take a shot on a guy that I've seen work in multiple different areas of MMA, and especially that has looked good in those, even if it is against lower level competition. So I'm going to take McCracken. No confidence here. Let me know who you guys have. Here at featherweight, we have our star prospect, Darragh Kelly, who was actually tested in his last matchup against Keith Stevens, who Kelly was a massive favorite in that fight. And yes, he looked great in the grappling. But in the striking, it was a little questionable. Stevens landed some shots on him. So I think Bellator's kind of taking a step back, saying, okay, I know we're high on Kelly, but he's now only 2-0, and he struggled a bit in the striking department there against a guy like Stevens, who's pretty good in the striking. So for Kelly, we're looking at a guy who's got high-level grappling. He's got good wrestling. He does have a solid leg kick on the feet, but that's about it. He's not super well-rounded in the striking department. But that last fight really tested him. So what did Bellator do? Knee-jerk reaction the other way. And now he's taking on Dorval Jordan. Now for Jordan, his 2 wins, he's 2-2. His 2 wins are over very bad competition. And his 2 losses are to very average, if not slightly below average competition. The dude's just not ready. I just don't think Jordan has a chance here. Darragh Kelly all the way. The odds are going to be stupid, though. He's going to be like minus 900 or more probably. So I don't know, maybe you put him in one of those stupid Bellator parlays you do where you parlay like 8 fighters together and just hope nothing crazy happens. So I'm picking Darragh Kelly pretty confidently. Let me know what you guys have. Here at 145 pounds, I think some matchmaker messed up because typically on these doubling cards, they want the locals to do well. And Richie Smullen in here, he's 4-1 in his last 5, but he's taken on Piotr Niedzielski, I think is how you say that. He's 5-0 in his last 5, and somebody messed this one up. Because don't get me wrong, Smullen's a good prospect. He's got decent wrestling, decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he can't strike. And Niedzielski, this dude can strike, and he's not bad in the grappling either. In fact, he's even undefeated at 145 pounds. Yes, he has 4 losses on his career, but this dude's competed at both featherweight, or all 3, featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. And his losses are between lightweight and welterweight, none of them at 145 pounds. He's also competed at a few catchweights in between there, so I don't know. But his losses, none of them are 145. Niedzielski's the real deal. So this is a tough matchup for Smullen, and I'm going to just kind of tell you the pick now. I don't think Smullen has a chance because I think Niedzielski's the way better striker. He strikes in combination. Yes, sometimes he can get a little sloppy in his combinations and his hands will be low, but I don't think he has to worry here because Smullen's going to let him come forward with those combos. Now, the other thing is he has a very nasty cross from the southpaw stance. So when he's here, that straight left, when you saw it in the match with Carvalho. Now, when he threw that straight down the pipe, set Carvalho on his butt, and was able to just kind of continue to piece him up the whole fight. But that southpaw cross, just lightning fast, serious power. So I do think Niedzielski is the way better striker. Now, like I said, he has no losses at 145. So I don't... Whoever was trying to get Smullen a win messed this one up, or maybe they're not. Maybe they just realized that, you know what, this is a good chance to build a star over here or make him hated by the crowd. I don't know. But he also has some decent wrestling as well. Typically, he just uses it to kind of catch his breath, catch his wind. He's not using it a lot in his fights as far as like a way to try to get a finish. So The striking, though, is where it's at, but because of that decent wrestling, I think Smullen's going to have a hard time getting him to the mat, and if he does, I don't think he's going to be able to hold him there for 3 rounds, and I don't think that Smullen makes it to a decision. So I'm thinking Niedzielski here, and I feel pretty good about it. So let me know if I've overlooked something, if I'm missing something, and Smullen's better than I think he is. But I didn't see anything that really stood out to me as Smullen is better than Niedzielski in any way. And Niedzielski should have a pretty good size advantage, considering the dude's competed at welterweight not that long ago. So anyway, let me know who you have. I'll see you in a bantamweight matchup between Brian Moore and Luca Lovine. Now, for Lovine, he's 2-3 in his last 5, 3-2 on the Moore side. This one's interesting because Lovine's going to want this fight on the mat, and Moore's probably going to want this in the striking range. Now, 5'4" to 5'8" in the height. Not sure on the reach of Lovine, so I just left it off entirely, but you can assume that he's probably got a shorter reach, being that much shorter. But Lovine, he's going to want to get this fight to the mat. He's got decent wrestling, decent Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he can rush his transitions and kind of get reversed, and then he also just is content to be on his back and work his jiu-jitsu. So not really something I like there. However, if he is the better grappler, he does have an advantage there. Now, in the striking department, Moore has a very significant advantage. He's got good boxing, good hand speed, good movement, and a little bit of pop on those shots. Now, the thing that really impressed me about Moore is actually in a loss when he fought A.J. McKee. He actually was able to land some decent shots on A.J. McKee, which not a lot of people can, especially guys that you see with a record like 15-9. You're like, yeah, he's probably not that good. He's not going to land anything on A.J. McKee. He landed a couple. Now, he still lost that fight pretty handily, but the fact that he was able to land those shots means against a guy like Luca Lovine, who his striking defense is just cover up and back up. That's his striking defense right there. He doesn't really have much to offer. And he also, his striking offense is just 1-2s with his hands low. Like that's it. And they're coming from down here. It's 1-2. And that's it. And he's looking for that takedown, and he's looking to get it to the mat. I think this fight should be pretty clear. I think Moore wins this one without any trouble. If he does end up on the mat, he might get a little bit of adversity there, but I do think he's also going to be able to get back up. And if not, well, maybe I'll be wrong. But no, I got more. Let me know who you guys have. At 185 pounds, we have Norbert Novenyi Jr. taking on Andy Manzolo. Now, for Novenyi, he's 5-0. That's his whole career. So young guy, 23 years old, 5-0. It's a good start to a career. For Manzolo, he's 4-1 in his last 5, but he is 38 years old. That record does look pretty nice, 26-9. So anyway, breaking this down, I started on the Novenyi Jr. side. So he's a good wrestler with some top pressure. Something that really stood out to me in his last matchup, he transitioned from a choke to his back to sync up a triangle. And yeah, that was slick. So the wrestling and the grappling, I would say Novenyi's got a good shot there at pretty much most of the lower level guys in Bellator. Now, when it comes to his striking, he struggles when he's pressed. He panics, does not know what to do, so he needs to get that wrestling going early in most fights, or fight somebody that's also not a striker, so there's that. And he's also been out for quite a while with a torn ACL. So there are some red flags here, but the wrestling and grappling is very good on the Novenyi Jr. side. Now, for Manzolo, you like 26-9. Why are they feeding this 5-0 kid to somebody with such a good record? Well, he's a can crusher. His best win is over Warren Lee, I think it is. And in recent memory, his best win's over Warren Lee, who's just kind of like he's like 9-9 or something like that, or 9-10, something like that. But just kind of a 500 guy, way past his prime as well. And I'm sure he was a good fighter at one point, but not anymore. So anyway, so for Manzolo, he does have decent wrestling and about average grappling. So on the regional scene, he's beating up these guys that are just not good at all. But Manzolo's not that good. He's bodied up, thick dude, big, strong quads. So the dude can use that for his wrestling a little bit. But yeah, in this matchup here, I think Novenyi should just walk right through Manzolo. And even though Manzolo's 26-9 and like the 4-1 in the last 5, it's not because he's that good. He did not look good at all in some of these matchups. It's just kind of low level, and he beats up a lot of tomato cans. So if Manzolo's watching, hey, sorry, man. Don't mean to crap all over you. But yeah, dude, stop crushing cans. Novenyi should get the win here. Let me know who you have, and I'll see you guys in heavyweight. We have Gokhan Saricam taking on Oleg Popov. Now, I might have messed up some of the names there. I think about Popov, right? But either way, both guys only one loss in their career. We have 4-1 in the last 5 for Saricam, and 5-0 for Popov. So both guys kind of similar in their style. Now, I will say that Saricam has fought the better level of competition, but Popov's only loss is way, way back in the day, like one of his earlier fights. Obviously, he's had 16 of them total, and he's won most of them. So The better level competition goes to Saricam. For Popov, he obviously has more experience. He's got good wrestling. He's got really good ground and pound. I do like that a lot. And he sits in the half guard while he's doing it. So he's not, he's not really looking for a ton of submissions. He's just kind of looking to set you up and start throwing shots at you. He calculates this. He's not just wildly swinging. He's looking for his shots. And I do like that out of Popov. Striking, decent striking on the feet. Not overly technical, not overly skilled, but he uses that wrestling, that threat of the takedown to set up the hands and land some decent shots, mix in the leg kicks, whatever. In the striking department, though, I will say Saricam probably has the advantage. He is the better striker with some pretty good volume. His striking defense is kind of weird, but I don't know. It hasn't really bit him yet, so get it, whatever. I do think his volume on the feet is probably going to be better than Popov's, but he also has very good cardio, so he's not going to fade throughout the fight, whereas a lot of heavyweights do. The one area that really gives me pause about Saricam is his takedown defense is just kind of like, all right. We've seen him taken down, and when you're fighting a guy like Popov, I don't think that's somewhere you want to be. So for me, I do have a slight lean Popov. Another one where I'm just not super comfortable betting this one. Unless you give me some serious value on the Popov side. I don't know what the odds are. Like I said, I'm recording these way before the odds come out. So I'm taking Popov here, and unless he's like plus 400 or better, I'm probably not going to bet it. But I do like Popov. Let me know what you guys have. Middleweight division, we are in Ireland. So guess who we're going to have? We got Charlie Ward taking on Mike Shipman. Now, Charlie Ward fights in every Ireland card that Bellator has. It's just what you do. When you're in Ireland, what do? You invite out Charlie Ward. So here we are. The dude's 42, though, so we'll see how much longer they can keep doing this. He's fighting the 32-year-old Shipman. Now, both guys in their last 5 have had so-so records. 3-2 for Ward, 2-3 for Shipman. Now, the difference is Charlie Ward usually gets handed a decent matchup for him so he can get the win in Ireland. Now, for Shipman, he's fought a little bit harder competition. Some of the Bellator prospects kind of coming up. So now they're throwing Shipman, who's 2-3 in his last 5, to Ward as if he's the scrub. So we're going to see if that's the case. Now, in this one here, we know what we're getting from Charlie Ward. He's a good brawler. He's durable. He's steady. He's just going to kind of come forward at about the same all the time. But his ground and pound is what he's best at. If he can get on top of you, look out, because he's just going to throw those bombs and hurt you. But he does have decent power on the feet as well. But if he gets on top of you, you're in trouble. Now, for Shipman, he's a good wrestler, so I don't think he has to worry too much about that unless he gets hurt on the feet, falls back. He does have good front chokes. I don't know if I trust that on Charlie Ward. I don't know if he's going to choke out Charlie Ward. Like I said, the dude's just kind of like durable and tough and runs people over. But what I do like is the cage push. Now, he can hold Charlie Ward up against the cage, frustrate the guy, hold him up there, just kind of hit him with some shots and win minutes that way. That's a good spot for Shipman. Ward, on the other hand, he's probably going to say, all right, I'll take a rest here for a little bit. I'm 42 years old. I'm just going to take my paycheck, and then I'll try and knock him out here in the next round. Does that a couple of times. Next thing you know, the fight's over. So, got to watch out for that from the Ward bettors. Now, because a lot of people are going to be on the Ward side just because he is that guy that kind of wins in Ireland. Now, the striking of Shipman is what gives me a worry about Shipman. Is he does a decent striking, and mostly it's just his striking defense is pretty good because he blocks a lot of shots and gets out of the way. But the problem is he just throws a ton of feints and never actually really throws any strikes, or very rarely. Like, if this was a contest on who could do the most feints, Mike Shipman's going to win this thing. He'd do a lot of that and not actually throw. And those are horrible feints, but you know what? I'm just trying to give you an example. Mike Shipman is likely going to be worse on the feet, even though he's probably going to look more polished on the feet. So if he can start using that wrestling and that cage push, though, I do think he should get the win. So I'm going to give it a slight lean on the Shipman side. Probably not going to bet this one. There's a couple of rough ones on this card, but probably not going to bet this one. Let me know who you guys have. If you have Charlie Ward, I'm not going to fault you a bit. Like I said, if he gets on top of Shipman, he's probably going to put Shipman out with just some ground and pound. So let me know who you have in the comments. I really appreciate you guys dropping those comments and telling me your picks. But we'll see you in the next one. We got a matchup between a couple of guys that are good pretty much everywhere. Not elite anywhere, but good everywhere. Now, this is in the light heavyweight division. We have Carl Moore taking on, bear with me, Maciej Rozansky, I think is how you say that. I might not be right, but I think that's how you say it. So anyway, in this matchup, both guys are 4-1 in their last 5. Very similar records for these two. For Carl Moore, he's coming off that big win over Carl Albrechtsen, who he was an underdog to face in that match. So for Carl Moore, I think that that win hasn't aged as well because Albrechtsen did lose his last fight as well. But Carl Moore looked pretty good in that matchup, so I think that shows how skilled the guy is. So he is a good striker, especially when it's at range, because he works that front kick well to keep that distance, throws with power in his hands, and keeps people at the end of his punches, which is very impressive against a guy like Hrytsenko, who wants to get in a little bit closer. Now, Hrytsenko's got good boxing, mixes in with mostly the combinations and head movement to get in close and start, working those shots. He likes to use the uppercut as a way to stop a guy from either shooting a takedown or dipping underneath his shots. And he uses it really well because it's a very boxing style uppercut to lift the, how in boxing they like to lift the chin with the uppercut and then him with the hook. He does that pretty well here. And the thing I do like about him is that he has volume over power because it lets him keep throwing that volume throughout the fight and not gas out. He does kind of keep his hands low, which can, not like low, but like down here, which can be a problem in a matchup with a guy with such power. But it could also be a benefit to stuff that front kick coming to the body, which you don't want to start defending the front kick with your hands very often. But if you're starting to eat them, it's going to happen. It's harder to get step outside of your front kick or use your knee to guide it away and come through in the middle. It's harder to do that as you get tired. So I imagine he's going to start using his hands to stop the front kick so he can get into that boxing range. So there's that. Anyway, on the mat, well, actually, first let's cover the clinch. When Hrytsenko gets in close after he's doing the boxing, he likes to clinch up and start driving knees right away, but those knees are very accurate, so I do like that a lot. And then on the separation, he'll hit you with the elbow as you separate and go right back into boxing range. And he does this very well. So I do think in the clinch, there's a significant advantage for Hrytsenko there. Now, when it comes to the grappling, both guys are very skilled on the ground for what you would expect. So Carl Moore, he's looking for the choke. All different kinds of chokes, he's looking for the choke. Doesn't matter what kind. Now for Hrytsenko, he's got 9 submissions in his career. The dude's got 14 wins, 9 submissions. And I think the reason he does that is because he's just consistent and steady, and he's beating you up with the boxing on the feet, working you in the clinch, and when you get to the ground, he's already hurt you a lot, and then he starts looking for those submissions. Now, he is way better on top than on bottom. From his back, he's not very good. Now, if he gets on his back, he will get held there, and I do think Carl Moore has the advantage in that aspect when it comes to the grappling, because in the event that Carl Moore ends up on top, Hrytsenko's in a lot of trouble. Now, if Hrytsenko ends up on top of Moore's, he's in trouble, but not in the same way. So I do think the striking and the clinch is definitely Hrytsenko. The striking's pretty close, depending on the range. Distance, or long range is going to be Carl Moore. Close boxing range is going to be Hrytsenko. Grappling, I'm going to give it a slight lean on the Moore side. Moore does get held up against the cage quite a bit. At least that's when I'm seeing him losing minutes, that's what happens. And I know that Hrytsenko likes to use the tie clinch kind of style in the open mat. But that's not to say you can't push a guy into the cage. So this is a close fight for me. I'm going to give a slight lean to Hrytsenko here. And I don't think I'd bet it unless the odds are really favorable. But I am going to pick a slight lean on Hrytsenko here. I just think that the volume over the course of the match is going to help him out a lot. I think the ability to kind of just be good everywhere, flow seamlessly between boxing and clinch range is going to help him a lot. And if he does end up on top, I think Carl Moore's in a lot of trouble. However, if he ends up on the bottom, he's in a lot of trouble and Carl Moore is probably going to finish him. So for me, I'm going to take Hrytsenko here. Slight lean, like I said. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time. We've got a matchup here that should be a grappling-based matchup. At least that's how it looks. But a lot of times when you get two grapplers together, they end up striking. So we have Kieran Clark taking on Leonardo Sinis. Now for Sinis, he is 2-3 in his last 5, and he's taking this fight on short notice as Clark's original opponent pulled out. So for Clark, he's 5-0 in his last 5 because he's undefeated at 6-0. And in this matchup here, you would assume that Clark is going to be a big favorite. I don't know the odds yet, but I would assume he's going to be a big favorite. He's one of those guys that Bellator is really trying to push, especially while we're here in Dublin and with Clark being from Ireland. So for Clark, he's obviously a very good grappler. He's a minute winner. The guy just likes to wear on opponents until they just give up the rear naked choke. That's his most likely path to victory in most fights. Wear on you, get the back, try to wear you out, and get the rear naked choke. Now, on the other side, for Sinis, completely different style because he has very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, good at reversing position, he's aggressive looking for the sub, but the problem is sometimes he gets a little bit too aggressive when he's trying to get that submission, and what happens is he'll just lose his position and end up on his back. So he'll try to jump up onto your back or whatever, get way too excited, go way over the top, or roll off to the other side or whatever, and the other guy ends up on top and just beats beats his face in. Let's put it that way. So for Sines, really good on the ground, but like gets a little bit too excited at times. The thing is, he's usually just beat up until he wins. So a lot of his wins here come from him getting a submission after just getting pounded out for like most of the fight. 2 rounds, 3 rounds, whatever it's taking, and then just getting the submission in there somewhere. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I watched a lot of tape on this dude just getting beat up and then winning, because he has a decent record for a regional scene guy that has a skill set reliant on him getting the submission. So not bad, but yeah. Anyway, he wants to get this fight to the ground at all costs. This fight has to be on the mat for him. He doesn't want to strike. Now, he'll charge in there and jump guard. He'll try to shoot a takedown. He'll do whatever he can. In this matchup, I think Clark's going to be very willing to go to the ground, because that's where Clark's probably going to want this fight anyway. But I don't know that that's the best move for him. I don't know if it plays into his advantage or Sines that this is a short notice matchup, but I would probably say it plays in Clark's favor. But then again, who knows? Who knows? A lot of these regional scene guys are just ready all the time, because I mean, obviously you never know when you're going to get a fight. So for me, this one's tricky because we don't really know a ton about Clark. Now, I know he's 6-0. He's looked pretty good so far, but his striking is not good. And in fact, neither of these guys can strike whatsoever. So if it ends up in a striking match, I don't know who's going to win, because they're both really bad at it. I don't think it's impossible that Clark has improved his striking since his last fight. I don't think that Sines has, because I've seen a lot of his fights now. He's already, quite a few fights into his career, with 17 fights in a career, and his striking has looked bad in all of them. So I don't think he's changed a whole lot, but he's only 6 fights in for Clark, so maybe he's a better striker now than he was. I would hope so at this point, especially if he's going to be one of them prospects that Bellator is going to keep pushing. So I'm going to slightly lean Clark here. But when the odds come out and he's probably like minus 500 as a favorite, don't bet him, don't put him in a parlay, because there's a pretty good chance that somewhere in there he's winning most of the fight and then gets caught in a sub, because Sines is not bad. His record's bad. Or his last 5, I mean. His overall record's pretty good. His last 5, but he's dangerous, especially against a guy that's willing to exchange in the grappling with him. So for me, I'm going to pass on this fight unless the odds end up being way closer than I expect them to come out as. But Clark's the pick for the sake of a pick. Probably by a rear naked choke at some point, or decision. One of those two. But let me know who you have. Let's go to the next fight. Before we go any farther, I just ask that you like this video if you're enjoying yourself and you've made it this far. And also, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. It'll help you find all my videos. I'm going to have all the Bellator breakdowns, all the UFC breakdowns, and every Dana White's Contender Series breakdown coming your way on this channel. So go ahead and subscribe so you can find that nice and easy for you. Now let's get into this matchup. So we have Janae Harding taking on Sinead Kavanagh. Now, rematch here. We have a rematch here. Now, I didn't know we needed this rematch, but I understand why. Because the first fight ended with a doctor stoppage via a cut. Now, if you watch back that fight and listen to the commentary, it was Big John that was saying that, oh, the doctor shouldn't come in and do this, blah, blah, blah. He has to wait until the cut man does his work. And he's correct. But I don't know that it would have mattered. That cut was just squirting blood like crazy. So I don't know that it would have mattered. But he is correct. They should have let the cut man do work. But that cut in Kavanagh's forehead was like, oh, what's a good example? I don't know. It was like that long maybe and like that wide. It was a pretty big gash, and it was like up in the middle of her forehead. And I believe it was from an elbow. I could be wrong, but I believe it was from elbow when I watched it back. That's what it looked like. But anyway, so the fight stopped for a cut. Was Harding winning the fight before that? It was close, but yeah, I think so. And so let's break this down here. So where are we at now? What has changed since that first fight? Well, in the last 5, Harding is 2-3, 3-2 on the Kavanagh side. Both ladies have had kind of shoddy careers. Harding does have the height and reach advantage. She is a couple inches taller and a couple inches longer, and that is a benefit. She's also quite a bit younger. She's only 28 years old as opposed to the 37 for Kavanagh. Now, Kavanagh is basically just a boxer with heavy hands. That's what she's going to do. She's going to come forward, throw her punches, land hard shots, and it's worked well for her in 8 of her fights anyway. She won 8 fights using that heavy boxing in style. She's lost 5 of them, though, because that's all she has in her toolbox is heavy boxing style. Although some of those fights that she lost, I mean, they were top level competition, so no shame there. But either way, she pretty much is going to come forward and throw hands. Now, in the first fight, the thing that we saw, or at least that I saw, you don't have to go back and watch it. It wasn't that good of a fight. Don't waste your time. I'll tell you what happened. So Harding was able to just stay outside using her movement. Now she has pretty good Muay Thai, but she has zero power whatsoever. Thankfully, she cut Kavanaugh. Otherwise, this fight was going to go to a decision, and we would have seen the same thing the whole fight. And I didn't want to see that. Nobody wanted to see that. So the elbows, the movement, anytime they would get close, they'd clinch up, because when you got into boxing range with Kavanaugh, you don't want to stand there and let her punch you, so you clinch up. And then when you go to when you're ready to be done clinching up, because you want to get that space to start working that Muay Thai that Harding has, she'd hit her with the elbow and separate, and that's how she got the cut. Now, the thing that helped Harding, yes, she got hit a couple of times, actually quite a few times, but she was able to stay on the outside with the movement and land kicks to the face that didn't have any effect on the fight because they had no power other than scoring points, scoring shots. Now, for Harding, I do think she's going to win this fight for the same reason, because not only is Kavanaugh older now, so she's probably slower, being 37, but you would think that Harding obviously is going to go into this knowing, hey, if I land some of those elbows in the clinch again, there's a pretty good chance I can cut her open again. So, realistically, using your movement, same game plan, stay on the outside, then when it gets too close, she starts at the elbow, get back out. She probably wins again. Now, will I bet on this? No, because if it goes to the decision, there's a chance that Kavanaugh steals it because she's the hometown fighter, and you never know. So, this could be in Ireland, so who knows. Anyway, my pick is going to be Harding, not mega confident. You shouldn't bet on this. I'm not going to bet on this, but I'm going to pick Harding for the sake of a pick. An interesting lightweight matchup between Peter Queally and Bryce Logan. Now, something that you'll notice when you look at this is their records are actually super similar, but one guy you've heard a lot of, and the other guy not as much. Now, Bryce Logan, 12-7 with 2-3 in his last 5. 13-7-1 for Queally, 2-3 in his last 5. The only difference is the draw and the extra win. Otherwise, their records are the same. That's not a lot different. But Queally is a guy that you think of like, oh, yeah, he's pretty good, right? He's always struck me as that guy that's just good enough to be recognizable, but not good enough to be like in the top at any point. And anytime he does fight somebody from the top, they shut him down pretty easily. Now, Logan, we haven't really heard much of him. It's just the level of competition that they're facing. And the records are very similar, but the level of competition is different. But Logan is much younger here. He's 33 years old as opposed to the 38 for Queally. Now, 38 isn't that old, but it is old enough when you're getting in the lightweight division. What you start to see at 38 is usually a bit of a downtick. So, in this one, though, Queally does have the height and reach advantage. He's 5'10", as opposed to the 5'9" of Logan, but the 74.5-inch reach over the 70-inch reach is what's important. Now, this is an interesting one, because one guy probably has the wrestling advantage, the other guy has the striking advantage. Now, for Queally, good striker with a high guard. Now, the problem with his high guard is he'll sit there and wait for his opponent to finish while he's sitting here like this, blocking the shots, whatever, and then waits till they've decided, oh, I'm done throwing now, to strike back. I hate that. Don't do that. My coach used to yell at me all the time for doing that until I quit doing it, because the reason why is, well, you got to give them a reason to stop throwing, or they just keep throwing. And if you're sitting there just doing this defending, you're losing the fight, even if you're blocking the shots. Now, sure, I don't think he has to worry about that in this matchup, because Logan's striking isn't very good. It's that standard wrestler-style striking with the hands low, just charging forward, throwing 1-2s, and just open to counter. Hands are down by your chest or whatever, and just flinging them. So Logan doesn't have the best striking. He wants to get in there, get that wrestling going, get that takedown. And yeah, that's probably what's going to work for him in this matchup anyway. So Peter Queally, this is a drawback, but in this matchup, I don't think he has to wait long. Those 1-2s, and then shoots the takedown. All right, cool. Now, Queally on the outside, he can work that jab. And, 74.5-inch, that's 4.5-inch reach advantage over the 70-inch reach of Logan. He's going to be able to work that jab, keep it range, and with a guy like Logan who's looking for the takedown, his hands are going to be low a lot of the time. He doesn't have them up here like this, like he should. He's going to eat the jab a bit. Now, if he does get the takedown on Queally has always been pretty good at getting back up fairly quickly. If Queally loses a fight, it's a lot of times because he's getting outstruck by another striker, or the fight's a very long fight and it's going to go to a decision, you're going to get back and forth, blah, blah, blah. It's not like he's getting taken down and just mauled, okay? I don't think that's going to happen here. So, for me, I do think Queally has enough in his gas tank to get this one done. I think he's going to be able to outstrike Logan. I do think he's going to get back up if he is taken down, which he probably will be at least once. But I think he's going to be able to get back up when he is taken down and then go back to the striking. So for me, Queally's the pick. He's going to get back on track, at least, in a sense. But let me know who you guys have. I'd love to hear about it. Right, so here in the 145-pound division, we have Jeremy Kennedy coming off of his very lackluster win over Aaron Pico when Pico's shoulder popped out and he just kind of got the win because of it. Taking on Pedro Carvalho. Now, Carvalho 2-3 in his last 5, 3-1 and a no contest for Jeremy Kennedy. Now, in this one here, we have Carvalho, who is a bit of a boxer. That is mostly what he wants to do. And that's awesome because he has good boxing. And the problem is he does have boxing style head movement, which is a lot of dipping of the head, moving it to the side, things like that. Now, in MMA, that doesn't work as well as it does in boxing for 2 reasons. 1, well, because it's a different sport. But 2, because in MMA, you have things like knees and kicks and what have you when you're trying to use that boxing head movement. And when you go to try and duck under a punch and then a knee comes up, all of a sudden that dip under that would be great in boxing wasn't so good. So the boxing head movement works great if your opponent's willing to box with you. Jeremy Kennedy is not going to be willing to box with Carvalho, so that is going to be an issue here unless he's able to keep himself very hyper aware of catching a knee or something of that sort. Now, also, that boxing head movement will put you, kind of in the range of a takedown. You need to be moving your feet to dodge strikes if you don't want to get caught taken down because you're off balance when you dip your head to the side. Your feet are kind of planted, or at least the one that you're leaning towards. So for Kennedy, he's the wrestler. He's going to want to use that boxing style of Carvalho to get the takedown. Now, Carvalho, don't worry. He's got good takedown defense. Well, not really, but his get-up game is great. So takedown defense is basically just gets right back up and starts throwing hands again, putting volume on a guy, putting pressure on the guy. And then when you take him down, he's going to hop right back up, start putting volume on the guy, putting pressure on the guy. And it works really well for him most of the time. But he's fighting a guy in Jeremy Kennedy who I think might be just a little too tough for him because he's got darn good wrestling. The top control is solid, so after he gets a few takedowns, he's going to be able to hold that. But here, where he can hold up against the cage and work that cage push really well, that's going to be a place where Kennedy doesn't actually have to get the takedown. He can just keep Carvalho stuck against the cage, not able to use his head movement, not able to use his boxing, not able to put the pressure on. And Kennedy's got pretty darn good cardio, and he's not going to gas out. So for me, I do like Kennedy in this matchup quite a bit. I don't know what the odds are. This is way before the odds come out. Bellator's kind of late with their odds sometimes. But I do like Kennedy. If the odds are playable, I'll probably play it. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the main event. It's coming up next. Road, but we've made it all the way to the main event for the welterweight championship of Bellator. Now, last reminder, do me a solid, like this video. I really do appreciate it very much. Now let's get back into this fight. So we have Logan Storley challenging Yaroslav Amosov for the welterweight championship. Now this is a rematch. If you remember, we did have a fight between these two once before. Went to decision. Was a very back and forth fight. Now, who won the first one? Well, obviously it's by the record. You can tell that Amosov's never been defeated. So, and there's one loss over on Storley's side. So that's where that came from. That only loss for Storley is to Amosov in a very close fight. It was, I believe, a unanimous decision, 29-28 for Amosov. But that was a good fight. Now, that fight was not for the title. That was a 3-rounder. Now we're in a 5-rounder. That changes things. So in this matchup here, let's go ahead and get into some of the nuts and bolts, and we'll kind of go over some different things that I noticed watching that first fight back again, and kind of how I think this is going to be now. So anyway, in this one, the height and reach on the Amosov side is a bit better. He's 5'11 with a 75-inch reach as opposed to 5'9 with a 71.5 for Storley. Storley is going to come with a really strong wrestling game plan. He's like a dog on a bone with his takedowns. He's just constant takedowns. The volume is great. Chains them together. He's also a scrambler. So if he reverses takedown, if you start to get back up, he scrambles very well. On the other side, so does Amosov. Amosov's a scrambler as well. We saw that in the first fight. It was a scramble fest between these two. The thing is, when Logan Storley gets on top of you, he does have pretty good top pressure. And we saw that kind of more towards the end of the first fight, where Storley was able to start putting that pressure on Amosov. And I think that was a combination of his wrestling skill with the insane cardio that he does have. Now, Storley has awesome cardio, and we saw that in that first matchup. His high motor never fades. Now, his cardio, you look at him, you think he's tired, but he still moves like he's not. He's still coming 100% the whole way through, even though like his face says he's tired. He's breathing heavy. He just keeps going. He's got the dog in him, if you will. And he's just going to keep moving forward that entire time. So that is all good for Storley. The one thing I don't like about Storley is his striking. I mean, it's very subpar striking. He has power, for the 170-pound division. He hits pretty hard, but he just throws a 1-2 with his hands down in that wrestler style where they just throw in their hands, just 1-2, hands down low, just trying to get in close so you can start shooting a takedown. That's about the extent of his striking in most cases. Now, Do I think that he has a path to victory here, even though he lost the first fight? Oh yeah, the 5 rounds changes that. So real quick though, for Amosov, he's a very good grappler in his own right. The thing that people got to watch out for is the front chokes. His front chokes, he's, you know, anacondas, darts, guillotines, whatever, any sort of front style choke, he's got that option for you. Like I mentioned, the scrambles, but he also has a good ability to get back up to his feet. And we saw that in the first matchup quite a bit, especially in the earlier rounds. Amosov was able to get back up to his feet. Got tongue-tied there. He was able to get back to his feet, start throwing the striking back at Storley, and I believe that's what ended up winning him the first couple of rounds, was the striking ability. Even though he was getting taken down, he was able to get back up, land clean, polished shots, because he does have good striking. He throws very clean, straight shots, and he has lateral movement to work with. So when he's stepping off, he doesn't let you get him up into the cage. He comes in, like I just got really close to the camera there, but he steps sideways. I should do it this way. Sideways. Throws his shots, his clean shots right down the pipe, and he was able to land on Storley, who he does have a reach advantage over. And then he'll mix in the head kick every so often just to kind of shake things up. Now, the head kick it's not the best head kick I've ever seen, but it adds a wrinkle to the game that throws off a guy like Storley who's just coming relentlessly. He now has to think about, okay, that head kick's coming. If that catches me flush, that's probably going to hurt. So that's there. The takedown defense is there. He makes you work for the takedowns. Now, he did get taken down quite a few times, but he either got back up or stuffed quite a few of them early in the fight. But the biggest caveat here is that he won the first fight. And how is that going to play on Storley? Could motivate him, or it could have him beat before the fight starts. So the interesting thing, though, and this is something to take into account. So the third round went to Storley because of that relentless cardio. And although Amosov wasn't totally gassed out, he just wasn't able at that point in the third round of their last fight to keep up with Storley. Now, do I think that Amosov is going to have that same issue here? I don't know, but if he does, it's a 5-round fight, and that's trouble. Now, could he still win this fight? Yeah, definitely. He does have the path to victory. Storley has a really good path to victory too, though, because of the cardio. Like I said, Storley's got to survive the first 2 rounds, and if he just keeps that pace like he had last time, he's got a real shot here. So for me, this is a tough one to pick. The slightest bit, I'm going to lean Amosov, and I'm not going to put any money on this fight for the simple fact that I don't trust that he can keep up with the pace of Storley for 5 rounds, but I do think he is the all-around, overall better fighter. He just has better striking. He has at least as good of grappling. The problem is, like I said, the pace that Storley puts on. So if Amosov can win the first 2 rounds like he did last time, which I think he will, maybe win the third, then he's just going to stay alive and not get like 10-8'd or whatever. But he's just got to stay alive for the last 2 rounds. Now, Storley, on the other hand, he knows he's probably going to win the 4th and 5th round just because that cardio is insane. But he has to win one before that. And yeah, he won the 3rd in the first fight, but that's because it was a 3-round fight. And for Amosov, he's like, okay, I know I've only got to make it through 1 more round. I don't have to win this round and I still win the fight. So, for me, I'm going to slightly lean Amosov. I think he's the slightly better fighter. But there is a real big possibility that Storley comes through in this one and wins this fight just because he has that grit, that determination, and he just chains those takedowns together relentlessly, just over and over and over. So there's a chance that Storley wins this one. I'd love to hear your opinion because I'm really intrigued by this matchup. It was a very close fight in the first one, and I would sure love to hear your opinion. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.